I'm author Julie Hasson, and this is week 4 of the Safe, Seen, and Stretched book study. This week we're focused on Chapter 4, Connection. This chapter is packed with inspiration and information about building stronger relationships with students. We know that strong student-teacher relationships lead to better social, emotional, and academic outcomes for kids. Ready to build stronger relationships? Let's go. When I talk to people about the teachers they remember, one thing is clear. The teachers who made a lasting positive impact on students' lives took the time to build relationships. In Chapter 4, there's a conversation among some of my graduate students, and Raphael said something that got to the heart of this. He was talking about what he remembers from his high school years. And he said many of those classrooms are just kind of a blur, like no clear memory, nothing that really made a lasting impact on his life. He said those teachers were kind enough, but he described them as transactional, as if there was this unspoken agreement. You do this, I do this, neither of us rocks the boat. He said they assigned the work, I did the work, they graded the work. It was fine. But there wasn't really anything that changed me as a person or that I continued to carry. And then he contrasted that with the teachers who made a lasting impact. And he said they weren't transactional so much as they were responsive. They got to know me as a person, as a learner. They noticed my needs and responded to my needs. And he has these very clear, vivid memories of those teachers. In Chapter 4, there's a story from Alex, who remembers his third grade teacher, Miss Davis, and I think it's the most beautiful example of this kind of responsiveness. Alex said when he was in third grade, his mom went back to work. Now, she used to be home with him in the mornings. She would fix him breakfast, take him to school, bring to school any of the things he forgot and left at home. But when his mom went back to work, he said she left the house early. He had to get up, fix his own breakfast, ride his bike to school. And one particular morning, he said it was very cold. Now, Alex grew up in Florida, so it felt cold to him. But he said he thought it had to be below freezing. And he's riding his bike to school, and he's missing his mom, and he just started to cry. And by the time he got to school and walked up to Miss Davis's door, he was shivering. He had been crying. And he said she just bent down, took his hands in hers and rubbed them until they were warm, gave him a hug. And he has this very clear memory of that moment. She noticed that he was struggling. She noticed the need. She responded to that need. That simple gesture touched his heart and made a lasting impact on his life. Strategies in Chapter 4 are grounded in the work of John Gottman. Dr. Gottman is a psychologist and relationship expert who's found that the strongest relationships are characterized by consistently noticing and responding to bids for connection. A bid is any signal that someone wants our attention or wants to connect with us. In the classroom with students, a bid may be very subtle. It may be a student who's standing near you who just sighs. Or it may be very overt. A student may say directly, "Hey, can I talk with you?" When a bid happens, we can respond in one of 3 ways. We can turn toward the bid for connection, which means we respond in a positive, affirming, caring way. We can turn away from a bid, which means we just completely ignore it. Most of the time that happens because we're preoccupied, we don't notice it. Or we can turn against a bid, which means we respond in a dismissive, demeaning, maybe even aggressive way. In this chapter, I shared an example from my friend Amanda's English class. I happened to be doing some work at her school, and I came into her classroom to observe one period. I was standing in the back of the room when students were coming in, and I watched one young man come in with his sweatshirt hood up over his head. He came stomping in, slammed down the backpack, sat at his desk, crossed his arms. He was just kind of mumbling. Then I watched my friend Amanda, his teacher, walk over to her desk, scribble something quickly on a Post-it note, walk by him, just kind of slide that note across his desk, and keep walking. My eyes were on him, and after a few minutes, his sweatshirt hood came down. I saw his shoulders relax, and a few minutes after that, he took out his book and started reading. I couldn't wait till the end of class to ask Amanda what she had written on that sticky note. So when I finally got the chance, she said, all I wrote was, looks like you're having a bad day. I'm glad you're here. Let me know if I can help. It took her less than a minute to notice his bid for connection and respond by turning toward. And because she did, it turned his day around. He started to relax. He engaged in class. But more importantly, it forged a stronger connection between him and his teacher, my friend Amanda. And I thought about the different choices she could have made. She chose to turn toward. What if she had turned away, just completely ignored his bid for connection? He probably would have gone on kind of fuming about whatever had happened before, wasn't really bothering anybody, but wasn't engaged. His learning wouldn't have been great that day, and it wouldn't have done anything for their relationship. What if she had responded by turning against? You've seen that when the teacher says, don't come in here with that attitude. You better take that hood off your head. Go back out and try again. So now you've got this student who's already struggling, already frustrated, could have escalated, could have disrupted learning for the whole class, certainly would have damaged the relationship between him and his teacher, Amanda. But because she took just that minute and made the choice to turn toward his bid for connection, she has a student who's now on her side, right? Much more likely to comply with what she asks him to do, much more likely to be engaged in learning, and much more likely to have a better day going forward than he had when he walked into that classroom. What a beautiful demonstration of the power of responding to a bid for connection. It's not possible to do it all the time. We're certainly outnumbered as teachers in the classroom, but the more often we notice and respond to bids, the stronger our relationships with students will be. Strong relationships with teachers influence the way students feel about school, the way they feel about themselves as learners. In the context of strong student-teacher relationships, a student is much more likely to engage academically, to comply with expectations, even to develop stronger relationships with peers. Sometimes we think that strong relationships, that lasting impact, happens because of these big moments or grand gestures. But more often, it happens in small moments when teachers demonstrate kindness and care. I happened to be working on this chapter in a coffee shop back home in Lakeland, and a woman named Kathy was sitting next to me. She asked about the project, and when I told her about it, she shared a beautiful memory of her kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Nash. Kathy said that she's the child of a single mom. She has other siblings. Mom worked multiple jobs to try to make ends meet. Kathy really wanted to learn how to tie her shoes, but Mom just didn't have time. But she remembers one day after school, her kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Nash, keeping her, sitting to her on the rug, showing her how to make the loops and tie a beautiful bow in her tennis shoes. Kathy said she felt so proud, but she also felt so important because her teacher took those moments to help her do something that was a goal for her, to help her do something that she really wanted to learn how to do. Now, Kathy's a mom of young children, and she said she carries the memory of that moment and thinks about how important it was to her, and it influences the way she mothers her own children. When we notice and respond to a bid for connection, when we take those couple of moments to notice a student's need and help fill that need, we build strong relationships, but we also make an impact that can last a lifetime. Stay tuned because coming up, reflection question 1. Reflection question 1. Think about the relationships you have with the students you teach. Would you characterize those relationships as more transactional or responsive? What makes the difference between a relationship with a teacher that feels transactional to a student and a relationship that feels caring and responsive? Pause the video. Notes. Coming up, reflection question 2. Reflection question 2. How consistently do you notice and respond to bids for connection in the classroom? What gets in the way? What keeps you from noticing and responding to bids more consistently or more often? Pause the video if you need to, because coming up, we've got this week's challenge. See how consistently you can notice bids for connection and turn toward those bids by responding in a positive, affirming, caring way. See how doing that consistently strengthens your relationship. It sounds simple, but it's not easy because there's so much going on. We really have to focus our attention and be intentional about noticing and responding to bids. See how doing that can strengthen your relationship. Thank you for the effort you put into building strong relationships with your students. Thank you for the lasting impact you make on young people's lives. Thank you for reading Safe, Seen, and Stretched. We'll see you next time for Chapter 5.
Don't miss any of our upcoming content. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. And we'd love it if you'd head over to Amazon and leave a review of Safe, Seen, and Stretched in the Classroom. It will help other readers find the book.